Good morning, Sean.
How you doing, Justin?
I'm feeling great, and I think that I consider you to be a powerful man.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I think most people consider you to be a powerful.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, you do.
Very powerful.
The problem with you is that you don't understand the power which you hold.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm with you so far.
That's why when you're downtown teaching guitar lessons, you're walking to go get a Starbucks, and you try to help like nice old ladies cross the street, you always injure them. Always.
Almost always.
Name 2 times that you did not
Injure is a relative term.
All right.
So how can you help me with my power understand it?
Well, today we're going to use the analogy of pedals and power and what they draw and voltage and milliamps, and you're going to understand how to better distribute your power based on this scenario.
Man, thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I had this video a decade ago.
That's right.
Because this is actually important. I was always wondering, like, am I going to fry my pedal?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Is this going to work if I, like, plug this power, if I daisy chain these? I had no idea. I'm still kind of a noob when it comes to, like, power supplies and stuff like this. So I think understanding power supplies at more of a fundamental level is super important for any guitar player who's interested in having effects pedals or even just running stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I feel like I should say that I'm not a complete expert. I know a lot about it as for building my pedal board over the time, but there's some things that I don't know. So we're really only going to go over the things that I know. If you have anything to add or you have any other questions, like comment sections where it's at. So the first thing I want to talk about is this is the effects pedal, right? This is a beautiful Fuzz Factory, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we look here at the power supply, right?
Boom, right there.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
So
a lot of pedals don't come with power supplies.
Right.
So that's why you need to know this stuff.
Exactly. They just come with maybe a battery inside, right? And batteries are fine. Why? Because they're always there. You don't have to worry about them, but they die.
Yep.
Or
sometimes in the middle of a show, performance.
Or they leak, like if they stay in there for a while, So power supplies are better. The reason batteries are good are because they are isolated, right? The pedal has a power that is all to itself, so it's not going to generate any noise, right? Which is caused by a negative ground loop, right? It's fine. It's just that hum, right? 60 cycles hum kind of thing. So I know it's a little bit hard to see maybe on here, but you can see that this says 9-volt DC right above the little input for the power. And then you can see this weird little symbol. And what it's showing you is that it's center negative, right? If you look on any of your pedals, you'll see a positive with a circle and then a negative. If the negative is going inside the semicircle of the positive, it means it's center negative. 9-volt center negative is what like 102% of pedals are.
Exactly.
That's not true. It's like 94.
Something like that.
Most, right? And then we have Sean's chosen Fuzz pedal, which is
Hall of Fame.
Come on,
this is Hall of Fame.
Honestly, do you know how many companies that make a Fuzz pedal are just muff clones? They're all posing.
Why wouldn't
they want this to be? And they're all trying to reinvent the wheel. And honestly, I mean, I'm a sucker. I have a Palisades, which is a 2 Screamer clone. But look, so
yeah.
So, but then you look at this proprietary. That's not.
Where do I plug my power supply? And you can't. You have to use the one that they use.
Exactly. So some pedals, especially older pedals, they're going to require their own power supply.
Real quick, I want to make a distinction right off the bat between voltage and amperage.
Right.
Right? To me, that's the most misunderstood thing.
Sure.
Right? So, you have a pedal that says maybe 9 volts, maybe some say 12 volts.
That's right.
Et cetera, et cetera. So voltage is going to be the amount of just juice.
That's right.
I think a lot of people use thinking of electricity as water.
That's right.
Right? So the amount of juice, electricity pumping through the power supply into the pedal.
Regardless of what you plug it into, right? It doesn't matter if it needs it or if it wants it or if it's too much. If it's 12, if this is 9 volts and you plug a 12-volt power supply into it, there's a good chance you might damage your pedal.
Right? This is too much for it to handle.
Right. However, like Sean said, milliamps are different, right? Amperage.
Yep.
So pedals, I have never seen a pedal that draws 1 amp. It would have to be a crazy digital line 6, ridiculous thing. But these 2 pedals right here, this is a perfect example. They're both 9-volt center negative.
Yep.
This one, I mean, definitely less than 20 milliamps. Right?
Which
this
is the ZVEX calling card.
That's right. It's insane how efficient his pedals are.
Yeah.
This one is 300 milliamps. Why? Most analog pedals and most drive pedals don't require that much current. And I know the exceptions would be like an analog delay. A lot of feature-rich analog delays will pull, 150 plus. Digital effects like reverb, like this synth wah envelope filter, which makes some of the craziest sounds I've ever heard.
Awesome.
It's such a cool pedal. Yeah, it's
sweet.
a very cool pedal. It requires 300 milliamps. My Empress Reverb that you saw in our pedal rundown, 400 milliamps. Earthquaker Devices, they have a new one called Avalanche Run, which is a digital delay and reverb in one with a bunch of features, 425 milliamps.
See, that's a lot. So basically what that means is it can draw that much energy from a power supply.
That's right.
So say your power supply is putting out 500 milliamps at 9 volts.
Right.
That means you can essentially daisy chain, link those together
Exactly.
to power 5 100 milliamp pedals.
Right.
Or one 425 milliamp pedal.
Exactly.
Another thing, something that I've run into is I have one of those pedal boards that has like a built-in power supply that has like maybe like 6 little spots where you can kind of chain in pedals, but they only put out 100 milliamps per little chain. So what I've run into sometimes is I'll have a pedal that requires more draw than that, and it'll start kind of like flickering. It'll be underpowered.
That's right. And so sometimes you might not ever experience the issue of being underpowered, right?
Sure.
So like you plug your 300 milliamp into a 100 milliamp, it's not going to damage the pedal. A lot of times what might happen is the LED you'll notice will be a little dim, or the pedal will cut in and out, or you may not be utilizing the pedal to the extent by which it needs all of that.
Sure, it can still work, but it's like, why doesn't this sound good? Because
Exactly.
it's not getting the juice it
Right.
needs to thrive.
So we're going to use these two pedals as an example again, right? So we're going to call this under 20. We'll call it 20 for fun. This is 300 milliamps, right? So let's say these are the only two pedals you have. You can effectively get away with this. What this is a Roland Boss just isolated little power supply, right? This puts out 500 milliamps, okay? So we know that we have 300 plus 20. That's 320 milliamps. So we can get, where's my little splitter? This right here. This is a little female to male Y splitter. So if we attach this, right, which this is center negative, this little end right here, and we attach this here, now this 500 milliamp can power 2 pedals, right? As long as they stay under that 500 milliamps. Then we have this one, same thing, except there's 3. They make them up to 6. I'm not going to keep showing, I'll spend 20
And
minutes.
this is what
showing
daisy
you.
chaining is. You're using one
Exactly.
power supply to kind of piggyback off of the power for the next pedal.
That's right. Now, some tuner pedals will daisy chain, right? But that's something that people get into trouble with, like a Polytune 2 like I have, or a Boss TU2. Those pedals will daisy chain, meaning that they have a place to input and then they have a place where you can output power. But they will not daisy chain more than the power you supply them with. If it requires 50 milliamps to power your tuner pedal, and you plug in something that pull the current draw capacity is 100, you only have 50 left. So if you go to try and power this, it's not going to work, right? So the other thing that happens again when you daisy chain and you start using adapters, there's a chance you might get ground hum. You might hear your amp being noisy. The way a lot of people, don't want anything that's not isolated power, but the way I approach it is that if it's not making noise, it's just fine. And if you like the noise, it's just fine.
Sure,
maybe
sometimes
you're like
it's charming.
Maybe you're like a lo-fi guy and you're like, oh, this sound like dusty tape heads. This is dope on a rope.
That's
I
right.
love this. Right?
I live in Portland.
That's it.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's fine. One of the other things is to keep in mind is that these are general rules. They're not a matter of fact, but typically digital and analog pedals don't like being in the same daisy chain, and drive pedals and other pedals don't like being in the same daisy chain. So if you, for instance, were to daisy chain these two, this being a digital effect pedal, right? This being not only analog but also a drive, the chance for a ground hum is pretty likely. But again, try it out.
There we go.
Now,
not all. Sometimes, like on the back, like on the Digitech thing, it'll tell you how many milliamps it draws.
That's right.
And other stuff. It won't always say that on every pedal.
most of the time you got to check the manual.
Yeah, or the spec sheet online or whatever.
Exactly. And it's really important to do so. So then we're going to talk a little bit about, again, like the voltage, like the water running. So I have my power supply that I use here for my pedal power, or from to power my pedal board.
Voodoo Labs pedal power, very popular device.
Now this is the Mondo. You can't see because I have a Velcro, which is half of what keeps it on. And we see that we have, the reason I chose this is because you can see we have two 400 milliamp outputs here. Get a little closer here. Two 400 milliamp outputs that can be either 9 volt or 12 volt, right? And you can't use them both at the same time, right? And then these two 400 milliamps are 9 volt only. So the Avalanche Run, the Earthquaker Devices Avalanche Run, which I think you should watch videos on, it's a super cool pedal. You couldn't power that with this, right? Or Sean's Big Muff. You can't power that. Why? Not because of milliamps or voltage, but because of a proprietary power supply, right?
Yep.
You can't plug that into here, which is
good luck finding an adapter for that one.
Yeah, which is why they have a courtesy jack. Do not plug your amp into this. Don't do it. Just don't.
You might. It looks a lot like an outlet in your wall.
That's right.
But it's not.
It can damage the power supply. It can damage your amp. It can damage your pedals. It can. I mean, like if you like kittens, kittens will be harmed. If you like puppies, puppies will be harmed. If you like them both, really. Both of them.
Anything cute will be destroyed by plugging your amp into a courtesy jack on a power supply.
That's right. So, and then we have 4 right here, 100 milliamps, 200 milliamps, and 2 more 100 milliamps, right? So you'll see that this is kind of confusing because this says 9 volt up here, and this says 12 volt, this says L6, this is SAG. Like, what is all of this? So on the bottom here, they have dip switches, right? And a dip switch is literally just a little tiny switch that goes one direction or the other. Sometimes they're metal, sometimes they're plastic like this. So what this does is it changes. If you have a 9 volt DC pedal, you just leave everything the way it is, plug in with the correct current draw, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll be good to go. If you have a DC power, pedal, or an AC pedal, right? So we have 12 volt ACA. So you can flip this little dip switch, and now these are 12 volt, right? If you have a line 6 pedal, you may have to use what they use, like this voltage doubler adapter, right? That I don't have one because I don't need one, but Voodoo Labs sells them. A lot of other companies sell them. I just like Voodoo Labs. And so you would flip the dip switches here, and you can use both of these outputs into one. It's a little Y splitter, so 2 to 1. Plug in and power your DL4 or whatever it is that may need it. SAG. SAG represents there are some tone snobs from like the 60s and 70s that used to use drive pedals, and they believed that the tone was best when the battery was just about to die.
These people are all on Reddit, by the way, if you want to talk to them.
They are, yeah. Mm-hmm. Come by our guitar pedals. We would love to talk to you. I'm there every day when I should be doing a lot of other things. So the SAG knob, or the SAG option, all you do is you turn the dip switch, and then there's this little tiny knob here, and you can go from 9 volts to about 4 volts. Right, so you're just kind of restricting the amount of voltage that your pedal can get, which isn't damaging. If you were increasing it to like from 9 to 18, right, you might be damaging it. The last thing I want to talk about with voltage is that some pedals, like I have a tremolo pedal, a Chase Bliss Audio Gravitas, and it can function at 9 volts or 18 volts, right? Make sure you read your manual. There's I don't care if you want to be experimental and not know what any of the knobs do, that's fine, that's on you. But make sure there's always a section that tells you about voltage, current draw, any proprietary specifications. Some of them say like a lot of the Walrus audio pedals, which are not my favorite pedals, but they're a lot of people love them and they're very good. In their manuals, a lot of times they'll say only use our adapter, even though it's a 9 volt. It's like, why not? And they'll be like, because, and it's like this.
Just do it.
Yeah, it's a super ambiguous thing. Is like, you better not use your Voodoo Lab. I don't know.
Which is tough because like a lot of times companies will do that because they want you to buy their proprietary thing that they might upcharge and stuff.
That's
like
right.
That.
Yeah, and also I'll tell you that I see tons of people on Reddit using a Voodoo Lab Pedal Power 2, a Mondo or Strymon has a power supply, and they're using Walrus pedals. So their house hasn't caught on fire yet, but.
No kittens were harmed.
No kittens were harmed, yeah.
Well,
so I think that's pretty much everything you need to know for the basics. And I know like I rambled a little bit, but I think that we got pretty much everything you need to know.
I feel like I understand my power better now.
Let's get the number down of injured old women.
Well, it's just I have a big heart.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I know.
So anyways, if you have any questions, let us know. Until next time.